You open this door with the key of reason. Beyond it is another dimension, a dimension of truth, a dimension of freedom, a dimension of joy. You're moving into the land of both the ideal and the real, of the possible and the actual. You've just crossed over into the Capitalist Corner.
Where reason meets reality, welcome to the Capitalist Corner.
All right, not my day today, folks. I didn't have that ready for the actual Capitalist Corner. Now I've put it on this show. This show is not the Capitalist Corner, although it is on the Capitalist Corner channel. The show is actually Everyday Ethics. I'm your host, Michael Liebowitz, and with us is the lovely Persephone.
Hello.
We've got a good topic today, but before we get to that, there has been some questions in the I guess they were on the webpage, Persephone?
Yes, they were submitted on the website, which you can find at thecapitalistcorner.org. There's a tab for Everyday Ethics where you can submit your own questions.
Yes. Okay. So first off, remember that we accept super chats, super stickers, and we are very grateful for them. Persephone's working on some goals, I think, for this. So the question is, I would like to see you compare just and fair. Explain the difference as to when to use which of the two. Why is forgiving just instead of fair? I don't really know the difference between the two, but we could certainly look them up, and I can tell you if I agree or disagree with the differentiation that we get from this here. Differentiate. Persephone, you got to talk while I do this.
I also don't know the difference between just and fair. I don't think that there is a difference. That's my gut feeling.
Well,
how's it?
Maybe not. I have they're closely related, but not the same thing. Fairness is about equitable treatment in a given context. It's situational, intuitive, and often comparative. When people say that's not fair, they usually mean the rules or outcomes don't properly account for relevant differences. The focus is on balance, equity, and proportionality. Justice is about principled correctness under an objective standard.
Yeah. So what I've got is justice is the what, and fairness is the how. And then my phone died, so that was as far as I got.
So I don't know that it matters much for our topic of everyday ethics. Maybe for philosophical precision, it does. But when I'm thinking of fairness, I'm thinking of if we're playing a game and everybody gets to start at the beginning. Nobody gets a head start. That would be fair. I don't know that that's justice. Justice, I think of more in terms of you give somebody what they've deserved, what they earned. Yeah. I suppose we could argue that with the default position is that people deserve fairness, that they deserve to start at the beginning. I'm not sure. It's a very interesting question. I prefer justice only because I have been using it for far longer and thinking in terms of it, but I will give it some thought. It's an interesting question.
I mean, especially the example, which is why is forgiving just instead of fair? I think that's an interesting.
Well, there I could see. Now it's interesting because when you give me that, I don't know how fairness would apply because you're not justice. I can see you're giving somebody what they deserve, what they've earned, because that's what justice is. Give to each what that person warrants, what that person merits. I don't fairness. I'm not really sure. I think what we should do, Persephone, with stuff like this is we should make a whole show out of it. And so let's set this up. Tomorrow, we're going to have an episode dedicated to the difference between justice and fairness. And we will cover that for the entire show. How's that sound? Is that fair?
That sounds good to me.
I asked if it was Lee, please, no.
I think that sounds like a I think that sounds like a good idea.
So that's what we'll do. So let me send this. I always forget to send this directly to Mark.
You'd think that he would remember to just check.
You
What a
would, but you know.
what a silly thing to say. Oh, let me share this as well.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk today about impatience and ethics. And the reason, well, first of all, let me say how I think they're related is because our moods impact our behavior. And impatience is sort of a mood, it's an emotion, it's a sort of a push to act or to not act. And we need to learn to deal with it. Now, specifically for me, I'm very impatient. Part of it is that I set up a lot of tasks for myself in a day. Um,
Yeah.
so let me back up a little bit to my own psychology. When I have, I don't know if I would call it OCD, but I certainly have an obsessive mind. Yeah, probably slight OCD, definitely some anxiety. And if I get my mind focused to do something and I get distracted from it, it's like I feel like I'm being torn from what I'm doing, and it really stresses me out. So if I'm getting ready and I'm preparing for the show and somebody wants to have a conversation about something else, my stress immediately starts to go. But there's other situations where I'm impatient, where I'm wanting to watch TV, and Diana is not ready. She's doing something else, and come on. Or if she's got the remote and she's not doing it quickly enough, or when I was a janitor in prison and I'm sweeping and there's somebody not sweeping and I'm impatient. I always feel like I'm rushed, like I got to get things done. Now, um, I didn't realize until recently how this impacts other people. That when you're short with people, when you're impatient with them, it has a negative impact on them. So I've decided this is something that I need to work on because before, it's a little irritating for me, but when it starts impacting relationships with other people, I feel like, okay, it's having a negative impact on my life beyond what I figured it would do. So I decided to start working on it. So we read a few articles today, Persephone, and I'm
Yes.
curious, you know, part of my problem with patience and impatience when it comes to ethics, like people used to tell me, patience is a virtue. And I used to respond, not when your house is on fire.
Mm.
Right. So I don't think that we can say you should always be patient. I think the key is to recognize situations that are emergencies that need to get done right now that don't I think that understanding the context of other people matters, that maybe this person's struggling. They give an example in one of the articles that if you're at the ATM and somebody's struggling ahead of you, no, I'm that guy behind them getting annoyed. That would be me, no doubt about it. Like, dude, come on. But I don't know what's going on in that guy's life. I don't know if there's a death in his family. He's distracted, whatever. Maybe he just got out of prison, doesn't know how to use the ATM. I ultimately don't know. And I think that that warrants patience. Unless now, if I'm absolutely rushed and have to get somewhere and it's of no fault of my own, that's different. But I find that usually with me, I pack too much into too short of a time, and then I'm always rushing. And then when something takes me, off of my path, I get annoyed. So what do you think about this?
I I think that p- I think that you need to have patience when someone is not maliciously sort of delaying you. But I think being impatient with someone who is like, if you're trying to have a conversation with someone and they don't want to get to the point and they're like beating around the bush, I think then it's fine to get impatient with them. Or we at work now are waiting for someone to get us information that we need. And we know why they're not doing it is because they don't have it. They don't have the information. And instead of just coming and saying, listen, we can't give this to you because it doesn't exist, they're just they're just delaying. And I think in those situations where someone is evading or someone is being deliberately fucking with you, I think impatience is fine. When it's a person struggling at the ATM or a child, one of the other examples was like a child tying their shoelaces, then I think being patient is good.
So this thing here says impatient people, an impatient person runs at a high level of impatience all the time. Now, this is distinguishing from the person who gets impatient sometimes. And it says they are constitutionally impatient. Impatience is woven right into the fabric of their being. They tend to be impatient with anyone or anything that interrupts their plans or dashes their expectations. Now, that is me, as I just said, explained. When something gets in the way of what I want to do, I get impatient. Now, this hit home for me hard. It said the issue is they personalize anything and everything and make the judgment they deserve better. They want to bend reality to meet their expectations, needs, and wants. What that reminds me of is the in criminal thinking, it's the thinking error of entitlement, that criminals tend to feel entitled. So when I read something like that and I apply it to myself, I consider, Jesus Christ, that's that criminal thinking of entitlement. Like I should have things, like everybody owes me to make the world go my way. Why it somehow how it bothers me a little is I've done so much work to work on these things, to address my cognitive distortions, to address thinking errors, that at this stage in the game, that sort of thing still creeps in. Ironically, it irritates me because I'm impatient and I want it to be done with. But the point is that this is something that really affects me, and obviously, from what I've been dealing with, affects my ethical behavior. It causes me to act. And we're talking about justice, injustice, unjustly towards people. And when I say causes, I don't mean to make it sound like it's something outside of me that's propelling me to do something. I mean that the way that I'm choosing to think, the way that I'm operating is leading me to behave unjustly. So therefore, it's something that I need to fix. And one of the ways to fix it is to recognize, first of all, not everything's an emergency. Right? Most things really, really aren't. And it's funny because I'm the expert on this when it comes to talking to other people. Right. Like when I talk to my girlfriend and she's nervous about traveling, I'll explain, look, nothing ever goes wrong. We've gone all over the place now. We've been to Boston, New York, Washington, D.C., Gettysburg. We've been to California, and nothing ever goes so wrong that we are irreparably harmed or anything. Everything goes pretty smoothly. But evidently, when it comes to myself, I'm not seeing that. Even if this doesn't get done right now, it's going to be all right. I don't have to finish this now. Or, this person isn't fucking with me intentionally. There's no need for me to be snapping at somebody. These are the thoughts that I need to correct.
I weirdly don't have this problem. I think because when I was younger, I was quite selfish, but like in a bad way, like not in the good way. I was kind of very obsessed with myself, and I'm talking about when I was like a young teenager, and I spent a lot of time and a lot of therapy learning that like I'm not the only person in the universe and not everything is about me. And because of that, I think that's deeply ingrained in me, that like I don't know what is happening in someone else's life. So for me, that's already an ingrained behavior. When someone is being really slow, I do sometimes have like a knee-jerk reaction of, oh, I'm so fucking irritated. But usually that's a thought that I like push away because my friend is very impatient. So when we're together, she will get impatient and I'll be like, we don't know what's going on in that person's life. We don't know anything. So I weirdly don't have this issue. I find that I'm very patient with most people and most things.
So I'll give you an example. When I was incarcerated and I would teach people sometimes, like Carlos, my friend Ramel. I taught Ramel. We did it. We studied a logic book together, how to think straight, and I took him through the whole thing and taught him. I was very patient with him, and I was very patient with Carlos. When I get impatient is when people argue with me and are irrational. Now, I'm not going to get into the whole thing right now. Well, who's to say what's rational, all that shit? Listen, A is A, 1 + 1 is 2. If Socrates is a man and all men are mortal, Socrates is immortal. These things are not things that I'm going to argue about. That would send me through the roof when someone says, well, whose logic? And it's like, just stop. Like, we're just being ridiculous. So when I'm having a discussion with someone and they're being unreasonable or they're misrepresenting what I'm saying, like this guy today on X asked me a question, I answered it, and he thinks he's being smart, or at least it comes off that way with the arguments he's making. They're ridiculous. And finally, I just said, take care. I'm not subjecting myself to this because my impatience goes through the roof. So part of it is the assessment that I'm making of the person with whom I'm dealing, or the person that I'm talking with. That if the person is irrational, like this guy or girl, I don't know what it was because it's a fake name, but I tend to get impatient. I mean, I explained what it was that he was asking, and he's still saying no because it's this, and it's just, you just don't understand, dude. And like, I'm not responsible to make you understand. Had you come to me and just asked the question instead of putting yourself as like a philosopher, I probably wouldn't have been as impatient. So that's an area. See, I think that being impatient with someone like that isn't so bad. I think it's to differentiate when somebody's being a dick and when somebody's not being a dick.
Or when someone impatience is a completely fair reaction to completely irrational behavior, I think.
I do too.
Because if someone is deliberately fucking with you, if someone will not listen to reason, then I think it's completely fair to be impatient with them, because you're not unfairly judging them. You're fairly judging that they're
Right.
being completely irrational. So that in that, like, impatience is a fair reaction because you're accurately judging the situation.
Yeah. Now it goes on to say here, Persephone, impatient people tend to be angry people in large part because they assume they're always being wrong. They're slighted. See, now I'm not always angry and I don't always feel I'm being wrong. They're slighted, but I do get angry in the moments when I'm impatient. I don't generally like walk around with anger, and my anger, when I do get it, tends to dissipate very, very quickly. But it says it's an exhausting way to be in the world, but that exhaustion is often unrecognizable to impatient people. It's clearly harm, but it is only one of several from impatience. And, I guess my impatience tends to be more targeted and not generalized. Maybe that's why I'm not always angry, but I definitely have anger. I do get angry when I'm impatient. So I guess the more impatient somebody is, the more angry they'd be.
Do you know what I think another aspect of it is? A lot of people, when they get angry, they almost like fight their anger. They're like, I shouldn't be angry. And because they're fighting the anger and they're like, no, this is illogical, because you're fighting that, it just ends up getting worse and worse and worse. And I think I've found that the people who have like quick bursts of anger and then like stabilize are less angry than the people who try to stay calm and try to like fight down the anger and then blow up, because I feel like that lasts a lot longer. So I think if you get impatient with someone and you get angry and then you sort of go, okay, well, I'm angry, and then you get over it, I think that's a different thing than if you say, I shouldn't be angry at this, and you try to fight that down.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. But I think the best way is to be primed to not be impatient, to learn that, there's things that I do that are, that are bound to annoy people. That's for certain. There's things that I'm not good at. And when I'm not good at something, I don't want people to be impatient with me. So, it's kind of hypocritical that, I want everybody to be able to do what I can do well, but I'm not willing to do what everybody else does well to spare them. So, but it says there in this kind of, it says those who are recipients of objects of another's impatience and anger can be harmed. The degree of the harm depends in large part on the nature of the relationship between people, the frequency, the level of impatience. See, I do not want to be snapping at people and getting impatient with people that I care about. I do not want to give people I care about the impression that they're a burden on me, that they're bothering me, because they aren't. It's me. It's my issue. But just telling somebody it's me, it's my issue doesn't solve the problem.
Yes.
You understand? Because you're still doing it. It's fixing it that solves the problem. We've got a euro, not a dollar, 149 euro from Katrin, super sticker. Thank you, Katrin. Jim Valiant says, time is a precious commodity. We should take care when we enter a context requiring something from others. It's on me when I enter any communication in the first place to account for that. Yes, Jim, great point.
So when you talk about impatience harming people, like this is super clear with children, because you do find like a lot of parents will get impatient with their kids who, again, we come back to the tying the shoelaces example. Sometimes parents can be super impatient with their children, and that can cause a lot of harm to the children, because if you're expecting them to just be able to do things on your time, or if they are trying to, I was always really bad at math, right?
Yeah.
And my father used to get so impatient with me because he was trying to help me understand these concepts that I just could not grasp. And he used to get so impatient with me, and that level of impatience and him getting angry with me and him saying like, this is taking too long, it shouldn't take you this long to understand something, didn't help me at all, put a huge strain on our relationship. And like, who did that help? No one. So with kids especially, like, being impatient can cause a lot of harm.
What did you think about the differentiation in one of the articles between patience and intolerance? I mean, patience and tolerance, not intolerance. I'm sorry.
I just read this and I'm trying to remember. I'm gonna freeze for a second.
You froze.
Yeah. I can't refresh my memory about what they said. I
Okay,
promise
so
I did read this.
I have it right. I believe you. So she says that self-restraint specific to patience is specifically oriented to the other person's agency or ability to act. McMullen, that's the person who they're commenting on her theory, uses an example of letting her young nephew take his time tying his shoelaces, what you were just talking about. She holds herself back from doing the task for him. Her restraint is characterized by a hovering attentiveness, a silent co-willing, and expressive encouragement in recognition of his struggle. While she wants the laces to be tied, her attitude is directed not toward the goal of tied laces, but primarily toward her nephew's achievement of the goal. This attitude involves both a willingness to share one's time with the other person and an acknowledgement of the limits of human agency. In Patience, quote, I share an orientation to the other's future that is attentive to the struggle involved in its accomplishment. Now, tolerance, you don't share the drama and meaning of the struggle. The author here says it's basically that you're just there and you're like, all right, you know what I mean? I guess I have to be here, so I'll be here and I'll wait. But when you're actually patient, you're kind of empathizing and identifying with the struggle that the person is going through.
So I think in this one they compared it like waiting for the nephew to tie the shoelaces versus standing behind a stranger at an ATM. Because if you're standing behind a stranger at an ATM, you've got, no involvement in that. but with a friend or a family member, and you're trying to teach them, or you're waiting for them to learn, or that kind of thing. I agree with that.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting distinction. I don't know if the differentiation marks the precise different dictionary definition of the words, but I do like the idea of putting yourself, sharing a person's time with them and being encouraging, wanting to see the person succeed, as opposed to just passively standing by. I think it's important. I think the more that we are able to put ourselves in other people's positions, to understand, that person might be going through something, might be dealing with something, might just not be very good at what you're expecting them to do.
Yeah.
I think it can go a long way to breeding patience. I'm reminded there's an old George Carlin joke that I used to love. I still love it. I mean, I was a little kid when I saw it, but it reminds me, because even today when I'm driving, I get this sense. He says that, when you're driving down the street, anybody driving slower than you is a moron, and anybody driving faster than you is an asshole.
Yeah.
And it's like
that.
you could just see yourself behind some guy. Oh, this moron, look how slow he's going. And then some guy speeds back by, asshole, So, but that, of course, is completely from a first person perspective, right? It's just that in each case, somebody is interfering with what you're doing.
Yeah.
In one case, the guy is maybe putting you in danger because he's flying by you. And in the other case, he's slowing you down. And in each case, you look at the guy as no good, but really, the guy in front of you might have some, a heart condition or eye problems or a headache, and that's why he's driving slow. Meanwhile, the guy driving fast, maybe he's trying to get his wife to the hospital because she's having a baby. You just don't know, what the situation is.
This exact thing that we're talking about, when a couple of years ago, our dogs got poisoned.
Ooh.
And we got home. Our dogs could get into the house and then out into the backyard. So our dogs got poisoned. We got home. They were both of them were nearly dead. So we threw them in the car, and we sped at such dangerous speeds because our dogs were dying and we needed to get them to the vet. And I know that we passed a couple of people in a way that was probably dangerous. And I can imagine what these people were thinking, oh my God, these assholes don't give a shit about anything. But what, obviously they don't know we are on it. We're in an emergency. We need to get our dogs to the vet. I mean, we're careful, but I can imagine those people didn't understand what was going on, and they were they're just speeding because they're assholes. Meanwhile,
did you get them to the vet on time? Did they turn out okay?
Yes, they were both fine. The one more fine than the other. The one was at the vet for a week. It was up and down. But yes, they were both fine.
Well, that is absolutely wonderful. So I am setting as a task for myself to work on my impatience, to not be snapping at people and rushing people to get things done. It's going to be a challenge. I've been this way my whole life, but I think with some work, I can take care of it. Maybe it will continue to happen, but not at the same degree and not quite as often. The Salem Reaper, the spouse of our wonderful Persephone, too fast, too furious. Who was driving, Persephone? Was it you or the Salem Reaper?
Oh, it was Salem, obviously.
I still don't know where he got this name from. I don't understand. Did you tell me and I just forgot?
No, because I don't even think I know where it came from.
And you told me he's a dancer, right?
No.
I'm teasing. I'm teasing. You told me he's a fighter. I was kidding.
Yeah.
You told me he boxes. All right. Well, look, everybody, thank you so much for joining us here today. We'll be back tomorrow. We're going to discuss the differences and similarities between justice and fairness. We will be prepared. Please bring your questions to the Capitalist Corner website, right? It's right there on the screen, thecapitalistcorner.org. Remember, we have Patreon, patreon.com/the capitalist corner. We got all types of stuff going on. That's not right, Persephone?
That's not. No. So the Capitalist Corner has their own Patreon, but Everyday Ethics has its own Patreon, which is
okay.
basically the same. It's patreon.com/everydayethics.
Oh, okay. Well, I got to get another one of these things here to put up for this show then.
It's almost like I sent it to you.
I'll pretend I didn't hear that. All right. Everybody, thank you so much. We will see you tomorrow. Until then, be ethical.